Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Whiting, and this is my project proposal for Engineering Software 1 at UHCL Spring 2019. So the project that I'm proposing is a CMS application or a content management system. That's what something like WordPress is. Um, but basically what I'm proposing is maybe a more simpler content management system that uses Word documents for blog posts and uses a directory structure as categorization and links. So let me walk you through this workflow that I created. So this is a pretty high level workflow. So basically, if you're a writer, you're going to write an article using Microsoft Word, and you're going to use the built-in features of Word to style your blog posts. So you'll use the heading functions, the list functions, bold, italicize, all that stuff. And you're going to write it just like you're writing an essay or something, and not have to worry about the HTML, the CSS, or stuff like that, or have that noisy post editor that if you've ever used WordPress, you know what I'm talking about. So what you will do is you'll write a blog post in Word, and then you'll have this Windows form application that is going to allow you to submit your article for review. So you're going to open the the Windows form application, and you're going to find your Word file and click a button that says submit. And what that's going to do is that's going to send it to a pre-configured uh, staging directory on a web server somewhere that the blog editor can see. So the editor, what he's going to do is he's going to look into that web server where you've been submitting your articles for review. He's going to read it, and he's going to be like, okay, I like it. It's everything's spelled right. It's the right kind of content. And then he's going to open his own Windows form application, find your submitted article, and click a button that says like approve or something like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to send the Word document to a web server. It'll probably be the same web server, but this one will be the one that the project will use to render the blog post. So after the editor is approved, everything else after that is going to be automatic. So what's going to happen is part of the project is going to parse a Word file into the HTML that's going to get rendered as a blog post on the website. Okay, this will prevent you from having to write out the HTML. It'll also prevent you, like I said earlier, from using something like the WordPress editor. Not that this project is going to replace WordPress or anything, but so that's what's going to happen on that part. And then the other part that the application is going to take care of is the editor is going to approve the documents and send them to different folders. So and those folders are going to represent categories in your blog. So if you've ever been to a blog before, you'll see that there's usually a menu for categories, and you click on a certain category, and the page loads with the links to all the articles that are part of that category. And so what this application is going to do is it's going to use the directory structure to make those links, and yeah, and just to make those links for the post to be under certain categories. And then after all that's done, it's going to push, or not even push really, just the website is going to render if a user goes to it, and it's going to have an HTML form of that document file. And what I was thinking is, instead of actually parsing the doc file into an HTML file, is that when the user goes to a web page, maybe even that HTML is rendered on the spot. So if the editor ever needed to edit something from the Word document, he could just do it without having to like re-render everything and go delete an old HTML file. So the documents would be sitting there in whatever directory, and they would get parsed on the fly as a user clicks those links. So there's a couple more features I wanted to introduce, and I'll go over that in a second, but let me kind of like show you what I'm talking about. So if you're the writer, you're writing a blog post like this. You're writing it in Word. you'll notice that for my blog post title or article title, I used heading 1. For my first subsection, I used heading 2, same for the second subsection. See, I've got a bulleted list here, and then just obviously this text. And so if I wanted to make this into a website or a web page, I would have to do something like this. So this is the HTML that would render kind of like what that page looked like. And so it would look like this. So basically I've got this from this. Okay, so this is kind of the high level view of what the application would do. Is as a writer, you'd write a blog post and you'd click a button, the editor would review it, he'd click a button, and it would go to his website. So this is just an example. So imagine that the editor or the blog owner or whoever would have a bunch of different articles under different categories. So he would have approved example blog posts to something like personal. So you could go to personal, and this would be probably the first one that you would see. And we would use the metadata inside of the Word document to render things like the author's name, the date it was written, and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's going to be the main functions of the application. Is one, this Word to HTML function just from clicking a button. The other main feature is going to be the approval process in the Windows forms for doing all of this. And then also there is the idea that a user or that the editor could edit his oh goodness, that the editor could edit his, oh my goodness, the look and feel of his application or of his website from some kind of configuration page. So imagine there would be another web page and he wanted to add another category. So the category he wants to add is, I don't know, maybe he's really into skiing. So he has ski pictures. And as you can see, I'm writing this in JavaScript right here, but what I'm picturing is there would be some kind of place for him to input something that would go into like a config file or maybe even a database that would do this. But basically I just want to show that there is the idea that he can add more categories. I don't know if category is a category, but that's the example. The other thing is being able to change the color scheme of his website. So something like that, or if for some reason he wanted an orange menu, he could do that. Okay. So that is the basic project that I'm proposing. I believe that would have 5 features. I need to write these down. So the first feature would be Word to HTML. The second feature would be the approval process with the Windows Forms applications. So obviously I'm suggesting that we write this in C# and .NET. The third feature would be like live editing, so that you can, on the server, you can edit the Word files, and you wouldn't have to do anything else other than change something in the Word file and then save it and then go back to the link and you would see what you're supposed to see. The fourth feature would be the configuration of websites theme. And finally, the other feature is going to be the directory structure as categories, etc. For this project, I definitely envision more configurations that you can make, and obviously this is just a really rough prototype. In fact, the HTML was written by hand just so I could show this example. and we would have to consider a lot of other things, like if something is bold when it's parsing, it has to make sure to add those bold tags into the HTML, these list items, stuff like that. So I think it would be a pretty sizable project, but also doable within 8 weeks. And I think it would kind of cover everything that we need to cover for this class. I of course could be wrong. This is just a proposal. And so yeah, thank you. Let me know what you think, and look forward to working with everyone.